You are the only person who can uniquely bring through your core passions into gifts for the world. But everybody tells you to focus on one thing, to pick a lane, and to niche down. But if you've tried that, and it's made you feel smaller, more numb, and less alive, it's not because you're unfocused. It's that you're wired for something that is much bigger than a single path. But this is the struggle as a multi-passionate creative. So I'm going to show you why multiple passions is not a flaw to fix, but it's really your biggest creative advantage that you could possibly have. So I'm going to also speak to how you can stop second guessing yourself, stop doubting yourself about choosing the wrong thing, so that by the end of this video, you won't just have more of an understanding of your multi-passionate nature, but you'll know exactly how to work with it in a way that keeps you energized, aligned, and deeply expressed. So if you've been torn between projects or you felt guilty because you can't commit to just one thing, let's take a breath, let's unclench the jaw and the shoulders and step into a way of creating that finally feels like home to you. But first, if you're new here, why listen to me? Well, I'm Kev. I'm an award-winning furniture designer, and like you, I've had so many passions that I've chased in my life. And I struggled so deeply to know how to make space for them in a way that felt sustainable and not like self-abandonment, right? So what I'm going to be speaking to is exactly what I've learned on my journey of crafting that kind of cohesive expression of all my passions, and how it just gets better and better and better the more that we create space for all of them in a focused, intentional way. So let's start by exposing the root misconception that we've been told that multiple passions equals distraction. You know, that success only belongs to those who specialized. And it's not wrong, it's just inaccurate, especially in our rapidly changing culture, you know. So much of that philosophy was rooted in fear, efficiency thinking, and sort of the industrial era productivity-driven pursuit, right? But it's not the actuality of how creativity works today, especially with things like AI that can make 15,000 things for every one that you do. So there's a different mode of operating that we have an advantage of as multi-passionate creatives. It's just slippery because it's awkward. The precedents aren't necessarily there, although I'll share some. But rewiring that program that tells us we need to specialize in order to get the rewards of the system that we're participating in is challenging. It's deep, deep work, right? But what happens when we try to go against this like innate natural wiring, or maybe not natural wiring, because that's what I just used, the language I just used. What happens when we go against this innate urge to be fully expressed and to be whole with all of our core passions given space, when we make ourselves smaller and we specialize, there's deep emotional cost there, right? There's shame, there's the self-abandonment, there's that constant sort of low-grade anxiety that you're just doing something wrong. And this is intelligent of your body. It's just learning how to work with these emotions in a way that connects you deeper to yourself, not creating separation, is the practice. And it's what I talk all about in my Embodied Creator Toolkit. You could check out that product. The link's in the description below. But the way that this dilemma is framed in our body, it's like we have to choose between breathing or drinking water. It's like we need both, you know, but then we wonder why we're either thirsty or not getting enough oxygen. It's like knowing how to create containers for your passions so that they can have meaningful impact and make income for you if that's something that you crave, while also just having the open spaciousness of self-expression. It's a difficult, challenging, nuanced path. And everyone has to find what it uniquely is for them. And I'm here to help you ask yourself the right questions so that you can reveal your deeper truth, right? So what if focus isn't about narrowing yourself, but it's about unifying yourself. I feel like in my experience, there's this sort of nervous system perspective that I start to feel, this kind of nervous system state, when I have so many passions that I want to make space for, but it feels really overwhelming. And so I go into fight, flight, sometimes even freeze, which is, indecision, numbness. But what's happening there is it really doesn't feel safe for me to abandon a part of myself that makes me feel really alive. So my body's like, I got to try to fight this, right? So I got to try to win this fight. And if I don't feel like I can win, I'm just going to shut down and I'm not going to make any progress. I'm not going to make any decisions. So what this reveals, at least in my experience and many other people's experiences, is that the nervous system is really the lock and key to finding your liberated self-expression in intentional ways. Because I want to feel whole. The intelligence of my body wants to express. But there's a pain there when my body thinks that it's not safe to be fully expressed, even though it's what it craves. It's dissonant, right? There's a shutdown in the system. It doesn't know which one to choose, right? So we often end up choosing separation or self-abandonment because it seems like the more logical thing to do, because everyone else is also saying to do the one thing. But what's helped me so much is to think about less of focus and devotion and discipline is less about narrowing, but more about how can I unify these scattered parts of me into a really cohesive container, a cohesive expression, right? So what happens when I allow myself to have that reframe, I feel like I can access a more deeper sense of connection to myself. Because I'm not trying to force myself to be something that I'm not or what other people think I should be. I'm allowing myself to ask the question, like, how can I allow all of these parts of myself to come together into unity? And there's a general sense of openness that I feel when I ask that question. So my nervous system is at least given the opportunity to open instead of close, to accept my breath, to have some regulation instead of tension and dysregulation, right? So for me as well, once I start unifying all these disparate parts of myself, as far as thinking like they're not separate, they're all coming from the same core. They're all coming from me, my deep presence, my deep connection to myself, my heart, all of those things, right? I start to take the pressure off needing to do all of these things at once, right? Not all of my good ideas need to happen right now. And to be able to lovingly set something to the side with still acknowledging it, right? It's like, I don't have to bury what I love in order to give space to one thing that's important, Life just works this way. It comes in cycles and it comes in seasons, right? But to be able to take this kind of more scattered self-doubting energy and to be able to make it all welcome. My pursuit to start an online community, as well as to do large-scale metalworking, as well as to build saunas and all of these things, they're not me being unfocused and unscattered with the frame of how does my creativity want to best come alive in this season? And all of those are seats at the table. They're all welcome, right? So when we allow acceptance for all these parts of ourselves, when we view them less as in conflict, we begin to access just pure grounded possibility. We don't need to pursue any one thing, yet we have the openness of desire of, you know what? That would make me come alive this season. That's a project I feel like I can devote my energy to meaningfully for the next 3-6 months, whatever. And I know that's often what people don't want to hear. They want to hear, do this thing for 2 weeks and become an overnight success. And that's just bullshit. I'm sorry. That's just not how it works, right? So in practice, right, there's so much more depth that becomes available when we start to inquire how all of these passions have a unifying core, right? You can be a multi-passionate creator who runs an online writing business and also does metal sculpture and also teaches other creatives how to connect to their body. And I can learn how to organize those into seasons, whether that's literally seasons in the year, seasons through my day, or whatever it needs to be so that each passion gets my full presence without guilt. I know that, for instance, making these videos is better spent in my more cognitively alive morning state. In the afternoons, I don't necessarily want to be in my head. I want to be in my hands. So I reserve my afternoons for creating physical artifacts. And I can have both of these passions that really complement and celebrate my season of a day because it allows me to really utilize my zone of genius that is most going in the direction of the creativity that feels natural to that state, right? Now, there's seasons where it's like, dude, you just got to do 10-hour days on this project and get it done. Sure, I get it. But if you have the freedom and luxury, I challenge you to do what I call a micro integration. Dedicate 30 minutes a day to whatever secondary passion you have so that it stays alive without derailing you from your main project, your main career, your main job, or whatever it is. Because that age-old phrase I hear all the time is, I wish I had more time. And know that everybody fucking says that, right? We have all the time we could ever need. It's just, what are we prioritizing? We have commitments, we have responsibilities, and we also have the responsibility to create the culture of the life we want to live. You have to really take responsibility for that. So if you want to create space for more full expression, create a dedicated container. 30 days in the afternoon when you get home from work, or 30 minutes in the afternoon when you get home from work, or in the morning before you start your day. Write, paint, do something, make a video like this, whatever it is, so that you are tending to that fire, that can, really make the sense of urgency dissipate, because often what I see is people who aren't giving space to their secondary passions. There's a deep sense of urgency. If I don't do this now, someone else is going to take the idea, or it's never going to happen. And again, that's not wrong. It's just we can do without the sort of shame and that internal sort of berating self-narrative. Create a container so that that fire can be tended at whatever pace works for you, right? Okay, so you're not, to tie a bow on all of this, right? It's not that you're scattered, it's just that you need to think of yourself as an ecosystem, right? Your creativity isn't meant to be reduced into one single crop, rather. It can be, but crops are seasonal, right? You have this whole ecosystem, this whole farm, this whole forest of delights and offerings and gifts that are such a blend of all of your unique passions. And again, only you can bring those into the world in the way that you can. So stop apologizing for your kind of multidimensionality and start really moving in the direction of expressing all of your passions intentionally without shame. Create those containers. Think about how they're all actually unifying together. Think about how the project you're working on this season, it can be making the soil more fertile for your next project, your next passion next season, right? So I invite you to get into the practice of accepting all of these parts that you think are scattered. This is a huge practice for me, right? So I invite you to just sit somewhere you feel comfortable and you feel grounded, and place a hand on your heart in your belly, right? You can breathe really deep as far as you can into your belly. This makes sure we're getting our air, we're getting our breath into those places that we really only intentionally take it. When we unconsciously breathe, we're really only taking it into our throat and the top of our lungs. But think of breath as like the life to that ecosystem, to all those fires of your passion. And I want you to imagine all of those flames inside of your belly as your passions, right? As you breathe into them, feel that sensation almost as like blowing on a fire, on a spark, and watching it flicker. And acknowledge that sometimes the wind's going to hit it just right. Sometimes it's going to look like the wind's going to blow it out. But we need to bring our breath and awareness to them anyways, And so as you're in this practice of tending to those deeper flames, those creative passions, you can ask yourself, which flame needs the most tending right now? And commit to giving it your full presence, Know that those others are still going to be there when it's their season. They're not going anywhere, right? So you don't need to choose between your passions. You just need to learn how to choose yourself fully. To accept all of these parts of you, not as separate, but as something that's trying to bring you more unified and into a deeper sense of your power so that you can create meaningfully for the world and be excited about it, right? So if all this really tickles your fancy, you're going to love the Embodied Creator Toolkit. It's a series of experiments that you can run in your daily life to create deeper connection with yourself, your creative power, and just become more embodied as a creative. And be sure to sign up to the newsletter. That's a great free resource, and subscribe to this channel because I really appreciate y'all's presence. So thank you all for being here. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.